Welcome back to the Grow Wealth Experience podcast. Today, we're going to put our focus on precious metal investing, in particularly silver. Now, when we say precious metals, first thing that comes to our mind is investing in gold. It's always been a safe haven asset as well as synonymous with saving your wealth. But there are also other options out there that I wanted to introduce you to, and silver is one of them. And our guest today is a silver investing aficionado. His name is David Morgan. He's armed with degrees in finance and economics and engineering, and he's a widely recognized analyst in the precious metal industry and consults for hedge funds, high net worth investors, mining companies, depositories, and bullion dealers. He's the publisher of the Morgan Report, a world-class publication designed to build and secure wealth. In addition, Mr. Morgan is the author of the Silver Manifesto and a featured speaker at investment conferences worldwide. He's appeared on CNBC, Fox Business, MSNBC, and BNN in Canada. He's got more than 30 years under his belt educating investors like yourselves. So he's here to introduce this commodity to you so you can start investing in it or seeing if this is something you want to invest in. But before I introduce him, I'd like to remind everyone to subscribe and follow my channel on whatever platform you listen to. It helps me grow my channel as well as keeps you informed of all these fantastic guests we have on our show. Welcome to the show, David.
Hello, Aisha. Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, let's just dive in. You have been investing in silver for a very long time, if I'm not mistaken. What do you want to tell a beginning investor who's looking to get into the market of precious metals? Why should we be investing in silver?
A great question, and I can give you some really good information for free. I was asked 25 years ago to write the 10 rules of silver investing. If you type in 10 rules of silver investing by David Morgan, it'll pop up on the web. It's there several places. I did a few videos about it, but in printed format, there's a book called the Investing Rules Book. And this book was about the experts in real estate investing, private equity, mutual funds, ETFs, foreign currencies, on and on. They chose me to do the chapter on silver. So that's a very good guide for anybody that's brand new or sophisticated. It talks about the right amount of silver, what kind to buy, what kind to not buy, why you want to have some, and on it goes. So it's there for free. It's a public service. And I would say that's a great place to start or review if you're interested in this market.
Now, I was reading today that the price of silver hit a high. It hasn't in a long time. What's driving the price increase in silver right now? Is it supply or demand or geopolitical or something else?
It's a bunch of things. Aisha, it's an 11-year high. We're hitting 30 US dollars, and silver is still the most undervalued commodity that exists. And that's a bold statement, and it's fairly easy to prove. Don't have time to go into the details, but it's always buying pressure and selling pressure. The problem with silver and other commodities is it's leveraged buying. So when you buy silver, the price you're paying is for a contract. It's for a piece of paper that says you have the right but not the obligation to buy or sell silver at a certain date at a certain time. And this is the futures market, which is responsible for the gold price, the cotton price, the cocoa price, the lumber price, and all these prices of commodities that are needed. Commodities are something society needs, not necessarily wants. But regardless, it's a very leveraged, so it's a very unrealistic price mechanism because it's overbought or oversold relative to the amount of physical stuff there. For example, almost all commodities, cotton cotton, soybean oil. Only about 1% of that commodity comes off the exchange or comes out in physical form versus 100 times that much that's done on paper. So you could see how that distorts the true price. If it was a cash only market, you would have to buy the physical because you needed it. And quickly, there used to be eggs and milk on the futures exchange. They blew out those markets. They're cash only markets, but you get a fair exchange because people buy eggs at a certain price. And same thing with milk. So I probably talked too much, but the idea is highly leveraged, which distorts the true price discovery.
What are the practical uses of silver that would drive demand? Is it an industrial use? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's a bimetal, meaning it's an industrial metal as well as a monetary. The word silver and the word money are synonymous in all the Romance languages. So the word argent means silver. And this is true in about 14 languages. However, silver's use in industry back in the year 2000 was about 35% of the market. Today, it's about 60% of the market. What's astounding is this. If you go to the mining supply back in 2000, it was about 500 million ounces. Today, it's 850 million ounces. So not only did you have an increase of, 40% or so, 30% rather, over that time frame, you also increased the silver supply by about that amount. So as a thought experiment, if we still mined it at the same rate that we did in 2000, industry would be taking up almost the entire silver supply today. That's not true because, again, we've increased the supply from 2000 of 500 million to 850 million ounces. You add the recycled silver on top of that, which is about 150 million per year, and you have a total supply of recycled plus mining of about 1 billion ounces a year. So the silver market is 1 billion ounce a year.
And your predictions, will this market continue growing in the future?
The mining part and recycling has been static for about 10 years. And I'm projecting it will stay there for probably another 10. But the demand keeps growing, particularly on the industry side, solar being the standout. And then when the currency crisis develops further, you'll see more monetary demand come into both gold and spill over into silver. So the dynamics for the market starting pretty much this year are quite bullish. And a new market or a new high in a market is the most bullish thing that you can have. Because once you have what's called upside resistance taking out and everybody's holding a stock or a commodity at a new high, they hold it. That's what happened with GameStop. It's, well, I own it at a profit. I'm not going to sell it. How high is high? We don't know. So any new buying pressure will take it even higher because there's not much available. It's called the float. What's the availability of it? So there's a lot of things going for silver right now that haven't existed for some time.
Fantastic. And can you compare investing in silver a little bit with investing in gold, risk versus reward, perhaps?
Gold has maintained wealth for centuries. There's a book called The Golden Constant by Professor Jastrom, and he compared gold's purchasing power against a basket of commodities and found that gold basically is a constant value that will buy the same bucket of commodities throughout the centuries. Where when he got completed with that book, Aisha, he thought, wonder what silver does. So he wrote Silver, the Restless Metal. And in that book, he proved that silver is harder to predict. It does well sometimes during an inflation or deflation, whereas gold does good under all conditions. Silver can be erratic. It can do better, but it does. And this book was published years ago. But at the time of publishing, there was nothing, and I mean nothing, that protected an inflationary environment better than silver.
Okay, so in a diversified investment portfolio, how much silver, how much gold should we be allocating?
Yeah, I'm going to add on to the last question a little bit more. So gold is really establishment. I mean, the central banks continue to buy gold hand over fist. They set records buying gold the last couple of years, and that continues. So the bankers, although they won't get on MSNBC or BNN or one of these financial channels and say buy gold because we are. They keep their mouths shut, but it's an establishment metal, whereas silver is called poor man's gold, and it's been taken out of the monetary system since basically 1872. But yet it still is the word money in many languages, and it's still used as money legally, but not economically. So the idea of silver being both an industrial and money is still valid. And so back me up. I'm sorry. What was the other question you just asked?
Forgot what I just asked. So in an investment portfolio, we've got a bucket of money. How much should we be allocating to, in your opinion, to precious metals, silver, or gold?
Going back to the 10 rules of silver investing, I talk about, too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. That's rule number 10. And at that time, I said 10%. I changed that at an investment conference about 5 years after I wrote that for the Investing Rules book, because we started the war in the Middle East, and that was a previous one with the Bush administration. I said under war conditions, you probably could up the allocation to about 20%. But there's been studies done. Ibbotson and Associates did a portfolio analysis. Their number is 15%, right in between my two. And CPM Group, which is on, more or less on Wall Street. They're not on Wall Street, but they're in the area. It was very well known precious metals analytical team. And they said from 1968 to present, so not, over the centuries, a 25% allocation to gold was the correct amount for portfolio diversification to maximize your risk to reward profile. So 20% is probably sounds extreme, but under the current economic conditions, it really isn't. 10 is easier to swallow because 10% got 90% that could be in real estate, the stock market, the bond market, private equity, your business or whatever. And people are comfortable usually with 10% because if the price goes down, and these prices, like all markets, go up and down, they're pretty comfortable if they've only got 10%. But once you start getting at 20, 30, then all of a sudden, they're disliking their investment because silver hasn't done anything for a number of years.
Correct. Now, what's the best way, in your opinion, to invest? Should we be buying silver coins? Should we be in a commodities EFT? Should we be buying stock from a mining company? What is your best recommendation to get in?
I have been very consistent here. I've said that you start with the real thing first. Okay. And you don't have to be sophisticated. You don't need to open a brokerage account. You don't need to go through a crypto exchange. It is as simple as it gets. There's really nothing simpler than buying silver and gold. So especially in North America, all you do is walk into a coin dealer with cash or a check or even a credit card. In most cases, you put it on the table and you say, I want to buy X amount of silver. I recommend coins first. And then if you're a bigger investor, then you can move from coins to bars. In the 10 rules of silver investing, rule number 1 goes something like this. No one wants to be a prophet of doom, but in the unlikely event that there is a financial collapse, silver will be the money of last resort, not gold. Gold will be too valuable for day-to-day purchases, where silver will be able to purchase food, gasoline, etc. Therefore, every smart investor should own some silver. So that's my pitch on why we all should own a little. And the best silver to own in North America is called constitutional silver, or in trade, junk silver. These are bags of 1964 or earlier dimes, quarters, or halves that are 90% silver, easily recognizable. And for the people to say that silver isn't money, you could take those 4 quarters that are 90% silver and take them into Walmart right now and buy gum with it if you could buy anything for $1. But that's the economic viability, or that's the legal viability of silver being money. And they'd have to accept it. And the person at the register wouldn't even probably know. They just look like old coins, but they recognize them as quarters, US minted. But yet you're paying 10 times the price in fiat because a quarter's worth about $2.50 in fiat, right?
You mentioned 90% silver. What's the other 10%? And is there things such, is there such silver, 100% silver?
Yeah. So yeah, most of the new bullion coins are 100% silver. The the U.S. Treasury mints the silver eagle, it's referred to, and the Canadian maple, and there's a Philharmonic and the South African Krug, and all those coins are 100% silver, but they're really not circulating as money. They're held for wealth protection, possible barter, or various reasons. But true circulating silver has always had a little bit of copper in it because for wear purposes.
Okay. And is there any storing practices for silver? You just leave them in your safe at home, or do they have to be in a certain temperature?
I'm glad you brought that up. Silver does tarnish. So if it's in an open environment, not in a plastic casing, it will tarnish over time. Sometimes it gets some very beautiful kind of rainbow tints. And other people, don't like it to, get that kind of thing. So they either keep it in plastic or you can polish it. There's, silverware, for example, no one has anymore. But in the old days, mom would polish the silver. So it cannot be brought back to very shiny state if that's what you wish. As far as storage goes, I'm glad you brought that up. I advocate, to have some on your own physicality, not necessarily in your pocket, but at your home or your office, buried in the backyard, as bizarre as that sounds. Think of yourself as a pirate. But if you're a large investor, it really does behoove you to understand the best storage facilities to use. I recommend them privately. I don't do it publicly because I know almost everyone in the industry, and I don't want to favor one over the other publicly. But you got to be a little bit careful. There's been large banks that purportedly were storing silver. Morgan Stanley is one, and one of their large investors came and had them investigated. It turned out that not only did they not buy the silver he had bought and store the silver he had paid for, they didn't even have a vault.
Wow.
And so they settled out of court with him. But that was a name brand broker, and all they got was a slap on the hand and a fine. And yet, if it were me, I would make sure they were able to enter the silver market for 5 years or something, because it's fraud.
Absolutely.
So you got to be a little bit careful, even if you think you're dealing with a mainstream bank brokerage house. In that instance, UBS actually had a similar case against them, but I don't want to be too far on the certain side of things. I like to stay neutral, balanced.
Right. You don't want to point fingers. Yeah. So in the beginning, when we were talking, you mentioned blockchain. Can you talk about that and how it's affecting the investing in precious metals? What that looks like?
One of the biggest questions we get is, well, okay, I believe you. I want to buy some silver, but how do I sell it? And this is a big question. And so really, and one of my friends, James Turk, started Gold Money. So, well, you'll sell it. So the idea is on the blockchain, you don't have the problem of carrying around a bunch of silver. There's states like Utah that have passed laws a long time ago that anyone in the state of Utah can use precious metals to buy anything anywhere in the state. But it's not practical. If you walk into a men's clothier and you have a bunch of silver coins, you're going to have to go. You both are going to have to agree. But then you agree on what? The price changes daily and all this. But if you have it backed by a debit card, especially on the blockchain, you can just let the back office, so to speak, take the appropriate amount of silver out of your account, pay it in fiat so to the merchant is transparent, and life goes on. And these exist. There's precious metals dealer or blockchain entities that do this already. I'm associated with one that does it, but doesn't have a debit card yet. We used to. And this is preventing you from carrying a bunch of gold in your pocket and maybe being robbed or worrying about it. It's on your card like any other card. It's just you have the choice to debit out fiat or debit out precious metals on your choice. And it's very handy, very easy. And I think that's the way forward because it protects your asset. It's not on you, but it can be transacted with in a normal environment that we're all used to doing every day.
So it'll make it liquid, actual liquid. Yeah. Okay. So one last question, because we're running out of time. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to share with the audience on precious metal investing? Maybe a frequent question that you get that I haven't asked?
I think that the one thing is, why you don't hear about silver and gold in the normal climate of, the investing news channels and that type of thing. And Wall Street really doesn't make any money selling precious metals. Usually people that buy it know why they're buying it. It's for wealth preservation or capital appreciation. And it's a sale that's once done, it's hardly ever sold back, where stocks are usually turned over and over and over again. So there's a market in trading, whereas there isn't so much in the physical side of the metals, but it is in the derivatives market, which is quote unquote the silver and gold markets in the futures exchange. I would just say do your own research, get educated, read the 10 rules of silver investing, and come to the same conclusion that I've come to on your own, and that is silver is probably the best, most anonymous, hands-on, non-counterparty risk investment you can make in today's world, and very few people are aware of it.
Fantastic. So I'm glad you joined us to make us aware of this commodity option that's out there for us. Now, did you tell us where we can get your 10 rules of silver investing? Did you mention that earlier?
Yeah, you could type it into a search engine. You can go to my website, themorganreport.com, go to the blog and use a search engine for my blog. It'll pull it up as well.
Fantastic. David, thank you so much for your time and sharing your wealth and wisdom with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.